bank alert flashed on my screen. $2,500. Gone. My stomach dropped. That money was for Noah's surgery, the one I'd been saving for over a year. I blinked, hoping it was some kind of error. But the signature on the withdrawal form erased any doubt. It was her handwriting. My sister. Elegant, looping, unmistakable. For a second, my brain refused to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. This was a mistake. It had to be. We were family. She knew what that money was for. How could she? I called the bank, desperate for some kind of explanation, some way to rewind the damage, but the teller just confirmed what I already knew. Withdrawal was authorized in person yesterday afternoon. ID matched. I felt like the floor tilted beneath me. Noah's appointment was next week. Without that deposit, the procedure would be postponed. Again. And each delay pushed us closer to risks we couldn't afford to take. I called her. Straight to voicemail. Texted. No reply. And that's when the questions started to spiral. Why would she take the money? Was she in trouble? Did she think I wouldn't notice? Was this betrayal or a desperate cry for help? There are moments in life where the people you trust most become strangers in an instant. When blood doesn't mean bond. When you're left staring at a screen, realizing someone you loved has made a choice that could break you. I needed to find her. I needed to know why. But more than that, I needed that money back. Noah's life depended on it. Because if your own sister could do this, who else could you really trust? The apartment was quiet, except for the soft whir of my laptop and the occasional creak of the old radiator. It was nearly 1 a.m., and I was on my third cup of coffee, half warm, mostly willpower. The glow of the screen lit up the tiny kitchen table where I sat, spreadsheets open, every dollar accounted for, every bill juggled like glass. In the next room, Noah slept soundly, curled up with his favorite stuffed dinosaur, his breathing soft and even. He'd had another earache tonight, blinking back tears as I pressed a warm cloth to his cheek. The doctor said the fluid buildup was getting worse. If we didn't schedule the surgery soon, it could start to affect his hearing. He was 5. He deserved a chance to grow up without muffled sounds and painkillers. I worked as an accountant during the day, filing other people's taxes and budgets while praying mine would somehow stretch just a little further. At night, I took on freelance design gigs, logos, websites, social media, graphics, anything that paid. I was tired, always, but Noah was worth it. Every bleary-eyed night and skipped meal. For 18 months, I'd been saving, clipping coupons, selling old clothes, taking on more clients than I could reasonably manage. That money was supposed to give Noah a fresh start. And then Alina drained it in 18 seconds. I stared at the negative balance on the screen, feeling numb. My sister, my only sibling. She knew what that account was for. Every time I talked about the surgery, every update, every anxious late-night call, she'd been there. Or so I thought. I couldn't sleep. Not now. Not with everything unraveling. I had to find a way to fix this. For Noah. For the life I'd promised him. Rain pelted the pavement as I slammed my car door and raced into Alina's building, fury burning hotter than the storm. Her luxury condo was all glass and gold, the kind of place that smelled like vanilla candles and entitlement. My heels echoed through the marble lobby, past the doorman who gave me a hesitant nod. I didn't stop to explain. I pounded on her door. When she opened it, she looked effortlessly perfect. Silk robe, glass of champagne in hand, not a care in the world. "You stole from a disabled child," I yelled, voice cracking, soaked from the rain and shaking from rage. Alina rolled her eyes. Borrowed, Aurora. God, you're so dramatic. Dramatic? I stepped inside without being invited, fists clenched. That money was for Noah's surgery. You knew that. She sauntered back to her velvet sofa, picking up her phone. Relax. You'll get it back. When, Alina? When he's deaf? When I've sold my car to make up for your greed? She smirked, taking a sip of her drink. I needed it for something important. I stared at her. More important than Noah hearing his name? She stood, walked to her walk-in closet, and returned holding something white and shimmering. My dress, she said with a flourish. Custom Vera Wang, you don't just wait on a piece like this. My mouth fell open. You spent my son's surgery fund on your wedding dress? She shrugged. I'll pay you back, after the honeymoon. The words hit me like a slap. Not sorry, not even pretending to be, just sipping champagne in her tower, while my son lay sleeping with cotton in his ears and painkillers on the nightstand. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. I didn't want to go to the wedding. Every cell in my body resisted the idea of smiling through the ceremony, of watching Alina float down the aisle in that dress. Noah's dress, if we're being honest. But Mom called the night before, her voice tight with that signature blend of guilt and expectation. Don't embarrass us, Aurora. It's your sister's big day. I bit my tongue until it bled, for Noah's sake. The venue was straight out of a bridal magazine, twinkle lights, peonies, and a harpist in the corner. I sat in the second row with Noah beside me, his little bow tie slightly crooked. He was trying to be brave, but I saw it. How he kept asking me to repeat things, how he tilted his head toward the sound but still didn't catch it. He turned the volume on his tablet all the way up and didn't even flinch at the noise. My stomach twisted. Then Julian, the groom, walked over. He crouched down beside Noah, smiling. Hey, buddy, you look sharp. Noah blinked, unsure. Julian tried again, slower this time, speaking clearly, enunciating each word. You. Look. South handsome. Noah's face lit up. Thanks, he said shyly. Julian grinned and gave him a little thumbs up before standing. Good kid, he said to me. I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. Julian had noticed. No one else had, not even Alina. For a moment, I felt something unexpected. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, if Julian knew what Alina had done. If he understood what she took, what it cost, he might care. Maybe this wedding wasn't just a slap in the face. Maybe it was a door, just barely cracked open. Enough to let the truth in. The clink of crystal glasses echoed through the ballroom as Alina stood for her toast, glowing under the chandelier's warm light. She tapped her champagne flute with a manicured nail, eyes sweeping the room like a queen surveying her court, laughter quieted, cameras focused. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she began, beaming at Julian, and for celebrating our dream life together. Polite applause. And to my beautiful family, she continued, eyes landing on me like a spotlight, for their endless support, emotional or otherwise. The pause was deliberate. I felt it coming before she even said it. Some people chase dreams, others chase welfare checks, right, sis? Laughter erupted, sharp, cruel, clueless. I heard a champagne glass clink too hard against a table. I didn't know if it was mine. I smiled. Or something like a smile, frozen, tight, the kind you wear when every nerve in your body is screaming, but you can't make a sound. Noah tugged at my sleeve under the table. I looked down. He didn't understand what was said, not really, but he felt it. The shift, the tension in my body, the way my hand gripped his too hard. I want to go home, he whispered. Me too, baby, me too. But I didn't move. I just sat there, humiliated under a ceiling strung with fairy lights, pretending the burn in my eyes was just from the wine. Around me, people chuckled and clapped, oblivious to the line she'd crossed, or maybe enjoying it a little too much. It wasn't just a jab. It was a warning. A public reminder of who held the power. And I realized, in that moment, Alina wasn't going to give the money back. I'd have to take it. The laughter was still fading when Julian stood, abruptly, microphone in hand. The room quieted, unsure whether this was part of the plan or not. Alina blinked, confused, her smile faltering for the first time all night. "Mind if I say a few words?" Julian asked, voice steady but sharp. He didn't wait for permission. He looked out over the sea of guests, bankers, influencers, family in designer dresses and rented tuxes, and then directly at Alina. "Funny you mentioned theft, Alina." A low ripple moved through the room. Alina's champagne glass froze mid-air. My breath hitched. "What does he know?" I whispered, mostly to myself. Julian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You know, when we were picking out venues and florists, I kept asking myself how we were suddenly able to afford all this. A dress that costs more than a car? A cake flown in from France?" Nervous laughter. Then silence. He turned to the crowd. "But Alina told me not to worry. Said it was handled." He let the word hang in the air. So I believed her, because that's what you do when you love someone. My heart pounded in my chest. Noah shifted beside me, confused. Alina was frozen, the color draining from her face. Julian looked over at me, just briefly, and I knew he'd found out. And then I saw the bank transfer, from an account that didn't belong to us, didn't belong to her. He held the mic tighter. But belonged to someone else in this room? Gasps echoed. Chairs creaked as people shifted uncomfortably. Alina stepped forward, voice brittle. "Julian, don't..." But it was too late. The cracks had formed, the spotlight had shifted, and for once it wasn't me beneath it. It was her. Julian reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a folded stack of papers, crisp and damning. He unfolded them with deliberate calm, holding them up like an exhibit in a courtroom. "These," he said, voice cold and clear, "are bank records. My accounts. Joint until recently." He turned to the crowd. "Over the last 6 months, Alina quietly moved $250,000 out of my investments into accounts she opened under fake business names." Gasps erupted. Someone dropped a glass. Alina's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her face, moments ago glowing with smug confidence, was now a pale, crumbling mask. Julian looked at her. The $2,500 she took from her sister? He nodded toward me. That was just practice. I sat, frozen, Noah's small hand still in mine, both of us wide-eyed. The room was dead silent except for the low hum of a champagne tower toppling somewhere in the back. Julian stepped forward, his voice rising. "She used your money, Aurora, for the dress, for this wedding, for the flights, the hotel blocks, the spa day for her bridesmaids, all of it." Alina finally found her voice, high and cracking. "You said it didn't matter. You loved me." "I loved who I thought you were," Julian snapped. "You stole from your family, you stole from me, and worst of all, you smiled through it." He turned to the crowd again. "This wedding is off." The room broke into chaos. Guests whispering, backing away, phones raised. Alina staggered back a step like she'd been slapped, mascara streaking. And all I could think, in the center of it all, was that somehow, finally, justice had cracked through the glittering surface of her perfect world. And it was loud. "Julian, I can explain." Alina's voice was barely more than a whisper now, her hand outstretched, trembling. Julian didn't even flinch. He looked at her the way someone looks at a stranger who's just bumped into them on the street. Distant. Unmoved. Save it for the cops. Her face crumpled. The murmur of the crowd had shifted from shock to disgust. Phones were out. People were already backing away, avoiding eye contact, pretending they hadn't been laughing at her cruel joke minutes before. Alina turned in a slow circle. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, the train of her designer dress dragging behind her like dead weight. Alone, finally, in the spotlight she'd always craved. I stood still, unsure what to do. I hadn't expected this. Not here, not like this. Julian walked over to me, eyes softer now. He reached into his jacket again, this time pulling out a plain, white envelope. He handed it to me, no dramatic pause, no speech. Inside was a check. $10,000. I stared at it, stunned. I can't take this. It's not charity, he said quietly. It's what she owed you, and then some. But no payback needed. His eyes flicked to Noah, who clung to my side, confused but calm. Just get him the help he needs. I nodded, blinking back, tears I didn't even realize had started to fall. Silent, warm streaks down my cheeks, not from grief, not from rage, from relief, from knowing someone, for once, had seen the truth and chosen to act. As Julian turned and walked away from the wreckage of his almost marriage, I looked at my son and smiled for real, for the first time in months. We were going to be okay. Justice, finally, had come dressed in a tuxedo. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and hope. Noah sat beside me in the recovery room, his brand new hearing aids tucked neatly behind his ears, tiny but powerful. The audiologist had just finished calibrating them, and the moment she turned them on, his eyes had gone wide with wonder. "Mom?" he said, voice soft and amazed. "I can hear the birds outside." I nodded, blinking fast. "Yeah, baby, you can." We walked out hand in hand, sunlight spilling across the parking lot. He was humming something under his breath, off-key and perfect. I didn't care that my shoes were soaked from the morning rain or that I hadn't slept the night before. He was hearing the world for the first time, and that sound, his sound, filled every hollow space inside me. People still talked, they always would, about Alina's downfall, about the wedding that became a scandal, about me. But none of it mattered anymore. I'd fought for my son, and I'd won. As we reached the car, Noah tugged my hand. "Hey, Mom? Yeah? I love you." I smiled, heart full. For the first time, I didn't hear the whispers. Just my son's laugh, clear as crystal.